Hey guys, welcome back to another awesome Push the Point deck tech video. I have got the man. I mean, you're a regular now. I'm starting to find my lovely regulars across the European scene. We've got Daniel Correas from the Sunflower Samurai, the brainchild of all these deck techs for the team. Dude, how are you?
I'm fine, and I'm also so happy so I can redeem. I've been playing Acelia for 1 year from now, so I have come back with my favorite hero. So let's see
Yes.
what we can show to people.
Yes, so Rhinar, Reckless Rampage, is back. He is the OG Welcome to Rave hero. He has now got back art piece now. I can't say that properly. Back art piece, right? So he's back in heavy hitters in the limited format, and he's definitely got some brand new tools for the CC meta. Now, you've taken Rhinar to a road to nationals, and I think we did a deck tech on that a while back,
Yeah.
and you won with Rhinar. So, I mean, I couldn't think of anyone in the EU scene more appropriate to talk a bit about this. If you don't know what Rhinar does, right, it's very simple. If you discard a card with 6 or more, during your action phase, you intimidate. And intimidate is a random discard from your hand and you lose it, right, for the opponent. So they don't know what they're going to lose as you're attacking, which is really hard to plan what your block cards are, because you kind of just have to go, there's no point looking at what my block cards are. I've got to wait until I see what he does first and then work out what my blocking pattern is if I need to. Is there anything more to say on Rhinar's hero text?
As long as Kaio exists at this point, we can say that it has another hidden ability, that it has 2 hands, so it has access to more pool playing the weapons.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's essentially it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Awesome.
a pretty cool mid-range hero.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like obviously we're not like, it feels like we are in a mid-range sort of meta. Not to discount that there is definitely an aggro meta out there, because Katso and Fi are still about, but I feel like he's in this really cool spot at the minute to sort of target quite a lot of heroes.
Yeah, sure. At the beginning of the metas, the vast majority of the people would do is trying to build more mid-range, and as long as the meta goes in advance, at some point maybe the meta defines to more aggressive or setup builds. The most typical one is the aggressive decks.
Yeah.
So maybe at the beginning of this meta, at the beginning of heavy hitters, we will see a lot of mid-range decks. Let's see how it evolves.
Yeah.
Maybe Acelia, maybe other decks
Will shine.
will will be on the top of the representation of the tournaments. Let's see.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, let's go through the equipment. I believe it is worthwhile to start off with his brand new sexy piece of armware. It's been a long time coming, everyone. No longer is it Gambler's Gloves auto include and maybe put Skull Crushers in. We've got Apex Bonebreaker. When this defends together with a card with 6 or more strength, you get a Might Token. Might Token is at the start of your turn. This pops, your next attack gets +1 to attack. People are saying, which is very, very true, there's 5 points of value on this because you're blocking, and then you block a 6 attack, and then you're obviously getting plus your Might Token from that. How good is this card for Rhino?
Is the best brute equipment card since the Scowling Fleshbag. That is not that long,
Yeah.
to be fair.
Yeah.
There are 2 really cool pieces we gathered on this with these new equipments. But yeah, this card is also has that my token may help you to go over the breakpoints. Cards like CNC, cards like all these range of neutral attacks such as Amnesia or things like that may go for 7, and it may be relevant if your opponent has to block with 3 cards, because as long as we can see with this deck, for example, Brute has access to a lot of agility tokens.
Mm-hmm.
So it may be a thing. If you block with 1 card and has that +1, can give you a lot of tempo. That is what we want with all these mid-range strategies.
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite a simple card, really, and the fact that it's one of those few cards as well that you are gonna actually just get its full block value from it and get the full like the most from it, if that makes sense. Sometimes you see a lot of temper weapons, and they've got their ability to still want to go, oh, I don't want to block with this yet because I still want to use what it's got to offer. Or sometimes you don't block with it because it requires you to destroy it to get its full worth from it. But this one is like, nope, you will block with, you'll use all of its potential on this card. So that's why, yeah, it's an interesting card. But it also makes what I'm going to move on to, Scabskin Leathers, quite interesting, because this card, obviously, a lot of the time, you're blocking for its blocking power, right? But occasionally, you wanna get a little bit fruity, and you want to roll that dice, and you have now opted to pretty much just go for it. You haven't got the safety net of Gambler's Gloves anymore. You've put it in your list. How come?
Yeah, obviously it blocks for 2-on-1, so it's almost an auto-include from now to the end of the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this card has changed a lot since the beginning because, as you said, you don't have access to Gambler Gloves, but you don't really want to take the risk of playing this because you now have a lot of go again on your attacks with the new agility engine. So the only thing you will have to do is to roll it. If you go first, you can roll the scab skins just to have access to push damage on the first round, and it's I don't know how to say it. A safe word.
Yeah.
When you're swimming on a pool and you need help, it's that the safe. I don't have the word, but
yeah, no, I know,
yeah.
I know what you're trying to say. Where it's like you just high roll, like just hail mary,
Yeah.
go for it, just because
It's
it could win you the
okay.
game.
I've lost. So the only thing I have to do is roll the scabs and try to do a high roll. That's
Yeah,
all I want to do. It's a second ballot.
yeah,
It's just a ballot. If you want to burn it, just to say, okay, I've lost. I'm trying to win the game, doing the high roll, and that's all. But in general, if you want to play mid range, you cannot lose one turn
no,
rolling a one. So you're not going to abuse it.
that much. No, that's fair enough. Fair enough. Let's talk about probably one of the most powerful equipments in the entire game, Scowling Fleshbag. When this defends, intimidate. Yeah, I mean, there is not. I don't think there is actually any form of intimidate that is not on your turn. This is like the only thing that can intimidate on the opponent's turn, and the strength of that is so massive. Do you just want to break down a little bit of Scale and Fleshbag?
Yeah, the value of this card is insane. The way to maximize the value, if people is just trying to make it, is a way to punish people who don't play around it, is to intimidate the last card of his hand. He has one card in the arsenal.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you know that that card in the arsenal cannot be played, you are effectively denying one card. That may be a play or maybe something bigger. Maybe he want to play the uh, Pummel, so it's a way to play against Guardian too. It's a really strong tool, and it's also a really strong tool if you're playing against Katsu because you can deny all this searching engine with discard a zero cost card, or maybe you can block one combo card. So maybe he wants to commit to do a lot of damage, but you can block all the turn with this equipment. I think
Oh,
it's quite hard to evaluate when to do it during the game. But if you do it properly, this card can have a massive value of 10 or 8 or 10 or something like that.
it can win you the game sometimes, can't it? Because there's been moments where, like when I've been mucking about playing with even KO or any sort of brute, because I think all the brutes just run this, right? And you just do that block, and you think, okay, I need to just sort of get something back, and and the opponent just goes, what out of everything? It was that critical card you just ripped from my hand, and it just swung the game massively, like the other side. Yeah, the power of this card, it's so weird because you can't control it. There's no like trying to find the perfect moment to control it is what makes it strong. But there are times you don't actually have real control of what you're swinging if they're playing around it.
It's for me the funniest part is that the best way to use it is not use it. Because your
Yeah,
opponent, if you play it too fast, your opponent just say, okay, I don't have to play around it. And
yeah,
if you don't play it, he's like, oh shit, I have to play this in this order because I want to put this in the arsenal, or I don't want to arsenal this card, or
yeah.
it's funny.
It's strong. Yeah, I like that analogy. Its strength is not using it. It's always the threat of it could be used, and I'm gonna make suboptimal potential plays to get around it. And you're like, cool, I was never gonna use it anyway. See you next turn.
I forgot I have a helmet.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna use that. All right, let's move over to the last bit. It's Tunic. I mean, I was saying in our brute masterclass video with Nathan and Ethan that wouldn't it be cool if we got a chest piece that has big chest, right? Blah 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 blah.
Yep.
And I was saying, he's wearing Shrek wearing a tunic. Yeah, Shrek is still wearing the tunic, but we all, if you've watched every deck tech ever, it's just one of the most powerful chess pieces in the game.
We have to keep the coherence with the green color. We have to go green, so it's green. It provides resources. It's perfect for brute.
That's it, and it's you're playing this nice long mid-range game. There's times
Yeah,
you're definitely just going to get you're going to be able to wait for those 3 turns to get it.
yeah. Also, it's a big enabler for for a lot of plays. There are a lot of times where you need one more resource, and you can do crazy plays with this. It's perfect for root. It's perfect for Rhinar.
All right, and your main board weapons. Okay, so the Romping Club is not in the main board. We're going straight for the tried and true Mandible Claws, the perfect knife and fork equipment for your Bloodrush Bellows. So Mandible Claws, if you discarded a card with 6 or more, the Mandible Claws has go again, and it's one-handed, so you have 2. So why have you opted for the Mandible Claws?
I think the Bloodrush play is just too good to not play it, and I've seen people playing Victor or defensive builds, such as Dash, the defensive one, Victor, maybe Bravo. So at the end, it's a strategy that it works, and it's quite good. You can do a 20 damage turning with only drawing one Bloodrush and doing a little bit of setup. And they're also quite good because with this agility engine, what you can do is play one attack that it costs 2. Normally it costs 2. You can discard one card and enable the Mandible Claw, so you can do a 6/3/3 turn with 2 blues, which is quite good.
Yeah.
And it's also a way to keep up with the go again. Maybe you only need to use 1, so it's fine. You can put 3 damage. If you play the Ramping Club, I think the idea, what you can do with the deck is quite different because you want to maximize the value. If you run the claws, what you want to do is to finish the game as soon as you can. And maybe in this meta, it's not that aggressive, but you have to make some aggression if you're playing against another brute. If you're playing against Bravo, you need to push damage. It's quite essential.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So that is your main board equipment and weapons. Let's go over to your deck. I tell you what, actually, I think we should start off with some of these sexy new cards that are generating some agility. Let's go for the old and Agile Windup. Probably the most exciting cards we have seen.
I could be talking about this card like 10 minutes or more. Obviously, we can say that this card is like my favorite card so hard. Released on Flesh and Blood for a long time.
Yeah.
Because I have a list with all the things that that I can do with this card. First of all, it's a 6+ attack with Sabrut yellow 6 attack. If you're playing the yellow version, we are also running the blue one because it's a card with 5 attack, which is relevant if you're playing against Clash.
Yeah.
And it's also good because you can create agility tokens. And with Rhinar, we have a lot of interactions we can do with this. First of all, we can discard it as an instant, so we can enable the weapons. We can attack with both Mandible Claws and then end with a 2-cost attack, which is huge.
Yeah.
4 cards hand, for example, you can do Claw, Swim Big, which is effectively a 14 hand with 4 cards and setting up an agility token, which is fine. And what we can do? we can use it with in order to deny Cano, for example. Let's say random interactions.
Yeah.
And Cano say, okay, I pitch these 3 cards and I'm going to do the combo, and I trigger the Ragamuffin hat, and you say, okay, I intimidate your last card, so you lose the Ragamuffin and you're losing the game because you cannot end the combo. You can use it in response to Crown of Providence because your opponent blocked with Crown of Providence and he wants to swap 1 card from his hand, and you say, hey, wait. In response of your blocking, I intimidate your card in your hand, and
Yeah.
you are losing the effect of Crown of Providence. So it's almost a flashback in your
Oh,
turn.
wow. Okay.
You
Okay.
can use it. You can use it with Zone of Mercy. It's the new card we want to talk about, but
Yeah.
you can use it to boost damage. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can obviously avoid Reckless Swing because you can intimidate before attacking. And my favorite one, as you are a Runeblade player, a Visceral player, you can
Yeah.
deny the Spellbound Reapers.
Nah.
You
why
can
did
do
you
a
put
lot of
this
things.
in?
You can do a lot of things with this card. You can just do it in the middle of the turn in response to an instant, which is
Oh,
massive. It's so funny to play.
it's
And
yeah. There's so like just by going through that list alone, the flexibility, right? The adaptability you have with this, the lines that you can open. It's not just raw damage, big numbers. It's you being able to do this funky out of time interactions that you probably like only associate a brute being able to do this before. If you occasionally run a pummel, right, do I go over, do I not? But most of the time brute is front facing. But with this, yeah, with all that stuff you've just said, you're a tricky brute, you're, it's so cool.
it's not the straightforward strategy we run. We typically run as brutes. We're
Yeah,
doing a trick in the middle of the. We're doing an instant on our attack reaction in the middle of the turn.
yeah,
It's wild,
it is
and
wild.
it's also a 6 attack in yellow, and it's brute. Even you can use it with the blue rush. You draw a lot of pitch, and you say, okay, 8. It's fine.
Yeah,
And it's this card is so interesting, and obviously all these agility setups bigger turns when you want to use your full hand to attack. So this card is perfect. It's
yeah.
so funny to play.
So the blues, obviously, I'll mention this for both of them really, but I'll bring on to the blue. Having a 5 strength isn't a deal breaker with this card just due to its flexibility.
You will run. You are going to run a lot of blues that are not 6 because you're not Kaio. So at the end, this is a card that it also helps for class because it goes for 5.
Yeah,
The 2 block maybe
yeah. I
uh,
was going to bring up the two
maybe
blocks.
yeah, the 2 block is not that good, but as long as you want to play aggressively, you can use the other cards to block 3 and have this one to go for 2.
Yeah,
Because at the end, if you want to do a big turn with 4 cards and you want pitch, you're going to use it to pitch. You're not going to use it to block.
yeah,
And if you draw a lot of blues, you can maybe arsenal one of those blues and use this one to set up an agility token for the next round.
yeah,
So it's a different way to use the blues. The
yeah.
past, the only thing you want to do with the blues is just block and 3.
Okay, yeah. No, I think that's totally fair because a lot of the time, you want to try and round out your deck with as many sort of free blocks as you can, and these 2 blocks that, and as someone that plays a lot of Runeblade as well, you're happy to run these 2 blocks in there because, like you said, you're trying to be aggressive, and not really, you're not gonna be blocking with it. The approach and point of these cards is to spend them, right? Is to because their use of spending it is just far greater. So don't fret too much that it is a 2 block. It's the instant discard a card create agility token is really strong. It's really strong. Let's oh yeah,
Uh,
it's oh yeah, go on.
another thing we can say about this is that it's a perfect card if you're going second
Oh
and you can set up an agility token for the first round. I ran lead the charge in the past, so this card is an improvement.
yeah,
Automatically, it's better. It's better. It does the same, but better.
yeah,
You can use it on your opponent's turn, and as you said, it may be tricky because you can block with your hand, and if you were taking a pummel or a crippling crash or whatever, you can still discard it for do a random effect if you need it.
Yeah.
You're not going to use it. You're not going to use the agility token if you get disrupt, but it may be relevant in some situations.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. Right, let's. So that's a really. I just wanted to just bring that down because obviously it's such a massive, important, like key piece to the deck. Let's go through your. I tell you what, I'm just gonna. I think I'm actually gonna stick with these agility tokens here, just because I don't think there is that much more. But we'll go with Smashback Alehorn, another card, create an agility and might token, go again, block 2.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's
it's at this point. At this point, is a card you can arsenal, which is really good
mm-hmm,
because if you draw a lot of agility cards, you can just use them, create agilities, put these cards in the arsenal,
mm-hmm,
and then as long as you lose your agility and you cannot create it on the next round, you can use it to create another one.
yeah,
Also, that my token is a +1, which is maybe you're not going to lose many games for one life, but it may be relevant. At the end, 1 point of life really matters. And as long as we haven't balanced yet the amount of agility cards we want to play, I run all of them because I think they are quite good. But maybe in the future, this will fight the slot with Agile Windup.
yeah,
Maybe only one will end in the final build since we still haven't we don't have the the expansion yet. We haven't tested on real tournaments. But I think this card is a little bit better than Agile Windup, but as the class mechanic is in the deck by itself, it may be relevant to have the five strength on Agility Windup. So both cards have good points and bad points. We
yeah.
still have to figure out which one is better.
No, that's fair enough. Right, let's now that we've got that out of the way, right, let's go through some big slap hits, right? Because we're Rhinar. You're gone for 3 copies of Bare Fangs, an extremely powerful card with just an amazing rate. So just break down Bare Fangs for me.
Yeah, this card is quite good. It's 8 value for 2 cards. It has 2 costs, which is so good if you're running agility and you want to attack with Ball Mandible Claws.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also an enabler for Mandible Claws
Yeah.
because it discards a card, so it triggers Intimidate and it triggers other effects. And it has a really good combination with Fiendal Spring Tunic because you can attack for 8. And if you have go again because you have an agility or whatever, you can use the Tunic to swing for 3.
Yeah.
So it's a card that combines really well with the weapons, and it combines really well with the rest of the cards that require our opponents to have less cards in their hand. So this card is, I think it's how to include in this kind of builds. It may be better than the go again ones that we were running in the deck.
Yeah.
We're running them in this deck, obviously, but I wouldn't sideboard this card.
No.
It's other another 3 copies of Swim for me.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good analogy. Zero block, obviously a bit awkward, but you know the power of this card is just too strong, right?
Will you block with a Swim
That's true.
Only if you are in a bad spot, but I would always play the Swim so this is almost the same.
That's very true. All right, the clash of agility. We've got the blues and we've got the reds. When this defends, clash from the attacking hero. The winner creates an agility token. Wow, I mean, talk about a very very cool block card just to basically continue on your reign on making agility tokens. You've gone for the reds and the blues. Break it down for me.
Yeah. It has the requirement we're looking for. It costs 2, it goes for 6, and it's a brute card, which is pretty average. It is fine. And if you use it to block, you create an agility token, so you can start with all these go again engine.
Yeah.
And obviously the 6 attack is quite good. And the blue one, as I said, you're going to use a few blue cards in your deck, and you can choose wherever you want. I think Class of Agility is a card that will be played in every brute deck, in my opinion, because it's a blue card you wanted to block. That is what you wanted in the past, but you also gaining something for blocking.
Mm.
So all these class cards are so good in decks that run more than 45 attacks. It's quite easy to use it if you're playing against decks like Asilia, like Fai, Katsu, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
The other decks that are not that good against is the Guardians, because obviously the Guardians run big attacks. If you're playing against other brutes, especially Kaio, because all his cards have a +1, so you're giving him an advantage. But if you're playing against a deck and you are like 80 or 90% sure that you're going to create an agility, this card is just awesome.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, just a lot of rate. It's nice to actually get something for blocking rather than just blocking. Yeah. So, Command and Conquer. Wow. I've seen that there's might tokens in this deck, and Command and Conquer for 7. I mean, that's a horrible number. Horrible number. So yeah,
this card is better now because it can go for 7 or it can go with go again. So it's like an improvement to the CNC we played 1 year ago, Improved.
oh, no one. I don't really know many people that can just put a Command and Conquer with go again. Like, every time you do, it's absolutely terrifying. There were days, obviously, the Rune Blades would have done this, right? With their ability to put lead the charge in, or creepers, right? But now a big heavy brute class being able to just readily and easily have access to a might token or an agility token, yeah, I'm not surprised to see this.
And also, as long as we have a lot of on hits in the deck now, our first attacks that are the one that only do damage and maybe provide go again or things like that are going to hit because they want to. If you attack with Bear Fangs with go again, your opponent is going to take 8 because if you play CNC for 6, he has to block with 2 cards.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to take the damage on the first attack. So
Yeah,
it's a way. It's running these cards into your deck. It's not directly, but are forcing your opponent to take damage, and you're advancing the game.
yeah.
And you're going to end in the spot that your opponent is at 10, 8, or things like that. And that's the moment when Intimidate writes.
Yeah,
It's that moment.
I know exactly what you mean. It's the threat of not knowing. It's that lack of control of actually seeing what's in front of you, and that's such an interesting new thing that's happening now with this Rhino deck. That, like you said, even when I'm playing games, you do just take a big punch in the face because it's like, there's no one hit, so I'll take this to the face, and then, but because I need to know what's coming, right, and I'll move on to the next card that's kind of feels like a real big CNC. Send packing, right? When this attacks a hero, banish a card from their arsenal. When the chain link resolves, if this didn't hit, return the banished card to its owner's hand. It's banished face up. It's not CNC, kind of CNC. This is that other card, isn't it? With the, what sort of one hit are you going to deliver for me?
I remember the first time I read this card, I was like, I saw the yellow pitch, the 6 attack, and I said, oh, this effect is awesome. This card, I think it hasn't had to block. And I said 3 block, and I said, oh, it has to cost 4. I went to the right up corner and I saw a 3, and it was like, dude, this card is insane.
Yeah.
It's all we need in Brute. And as I said, this another on hit that is quite good with Might because going for 7 is awesome. And it also has a little difference with CNC because if your opponent block this card, that card is going back to his hand. So effectively, if your opponent is, for example, blocking with all the equipment, let's say you were playing against Levy and he blocks for 6 with the Carrion Husk, he's playing a 5 cards turn on the next round. And this is not relevant at all, but you're allowing your opponent to swap the arsenal. So you have to be quite careful with this card. If you know your opponent is going to block it, you have to be sure that your opponent has a really good card in the arsenal. Because you don't want him to evaluate, okay, I'm going to block this to swap my arsenal and have a good turn on the next round.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's risky, but like again, it's that threat of the payoff, isn't it? And you can't just throw this out like willy-nilly. You have to plan to get this going and execute it properly, which is really cool actually for brutes. It's not just raw damage and good numbers. Again, it's just executing a good plan. So yeah, Senpakin, very good card. Pulping, of course, another amazing card that just seems to never leave the brute deck side. So draw a card, then randomly discard a card, and if you discarded a card with 6 or more, this gets dominate. Pulping. If pulping is defended by less than 2 non-equipment cards, it has go again. So unless you have a card in defense reaction in Arsenal, this card's just going to get go again, right?
Yeah, it's not going to have go again, but at the end, if you have an agility token, this card allows us to push a lot of damage. We can play it safely, even if your opponent blocks, you're just having the go again effectively. Then, if you have a go again and you start your turn with a 2-cost attack, you can do a 2-cost, then Pulping, then the Claw, which may be relevant if that order may be relevant at all. And it's a way to have a free Intimidate, because typically Rhinar, the cards they're playing are cards that say discard a card, and you're losing the value of one card doing 1 Intimidate. But these cards are so valuable, make your ability so good, because you're not wasting cards playing this. And obviously, it has a good combination with the Fiendal Spring Tunic, because you can give the +3 with a weapon. So it may be effectively a 9 damage value play with 2 cards.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Dominate's very key. It's one of those cards that I just see pretty much closes the game out, right? You just do that big Bravo turn of, oh, you're really low, but here's a Dominate. Yeah. And it just does
and
it.
Also, if I can say another interaction with the Agility Windup, you can use Pulping. You have one card in your hand. You use Pulping, and it was this card. If you draw the Agility Windup, you can discard it, create an Agility token in the middle of the attack, and you can lower the amount of options your opponent has, because you're intimidating one card in the middle. So with maybe those 2 cards, maybe he needs one to make his turn. So you're effectively hitting the Pulping, which is good. It's interesting. It's quite interesting.
No, that's fair. So Runner, the new Brute Warrior Majestic. When this attacks, if it has go again, create an agility token. 2 for 6, blocks for 3. So you're obviously banking on these agility tokens hitting. This seems like an extremely good card to open up the attacks with your agility token, right?
Yeah, sure. And it also is on rate. You have everything you need, and it also blocks for 3, which is fine. If this card will block for 2 or things like that, it may be stuck with other cards that block for 2, such as Agility Windup or the blue ones. But it's also a good starter with these 2 blue turns where you can say runner, set up an agility token for the next round, maybe Pulping or Wild Rite, and then finish with your weapon attack. It's quite good. And also keeping this continuity of having agility tokens around turns. If you have the tempo of the game and your opponent is just blocking, it's quite good. This is an attack on ratio, and at the end, if you are using agility with the rest of the cards, you are wasting one card. You're discarding one card, or you're blocking with one card, or you are using one card with go again. But this card is, okay, do what you want to do, and you also have an agility token.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. It's like all these cards that say draw this card are doing a free Intimidate for Rhinar. This card is a free agility token, essentially.
Yeah, no, it's so strong, and I always find that more and more that the more we're keeping that agility token machine running each turn, being able to go, okay, do my turn, I've got my agility token pops, swing a hit, and then I've ended my turn with another one. It's just like, oh, bro, you need to just calm down a bit. And yeah, having runner just to continue that agility token machine going is really strong. Savage Feast, a really, really, really strong card. A card that most of the time was just at the mercy a bit of the Scabskin Leathers turns, right? Did you roll a 4? Okay, Savage Feast is now really good. Okay, I can now do this crazy turn and I draw a card. Now we've got agility tokens. A 1 for 6 is an additional cost. You discard a random card. If it's a 6 or more, you draw a card. Bro, this card's sick.
6 intimidate, draw one card. what what the heck is this?
Yeah.
Is awesome. It also has a really good combination with the Findal Spring Tunic. Even if you don't have an agility token, with two
Mm,
cards you can do a 6 value intimidate, draw one card,
yeah.
so you can arsenal it. And also if you have an agility token, you can keep up going with the claws.
Hmm.
So as long as it's a cheap card, you can combine it really well with the rest of the cards. This
Yeah.
card has gained a lot of power. I could also consider running it in blue because even in blue the ratios are just crazy.
Mm,
But I still have to test more about it around it.
yeah. Yeah. Getting that 6 cost ratio right. Yeah, I hear you. I'm going to end this with, well, I'm going to end this sort of say middle of the road attacks with Wild Ride. Okay, real strong, very good extender to all of Brute's attacks. When it attacks, draw a card, then discard a random one. If it's the card 6 or more, this gets go again. I mean, since Bare Fangs and Wild Rise has come out, these have been real cool cards to the Brute plan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And it also works really well with agility tokens in general. The one cost make this card really flexible.
yeah,
I
yeah.
would like to have more 6 for 1 cards in the deck, but we're not Levia.
No, that's true. That's very true. Okay, Skull Crack, 2 cost, strength 6, blots for 3. If this was discarded at random, gain 1 resource. I mean, it's a. I don't know how to evaluate this card. Obviously, if it works, it works. But sometimes I don't know. You explain. Skull Crack.
uh, it's a card on ratio, and it's maybe randomly you can just gain 1 resource, and that may mean that you're attacking with one Mandible Claw or something like that. So this card randomly can give you a 3 value for nothing,
Mm-hmm.
essentially. And it's also quite you can plan around it if you play a class on agility because you can see that card is in the top of your deck. So maybe you can plan your turn around it.
Mm,
So it's not that random. And
true.
also just as a side note for this card, is that it only triggers when it discards at random. So if all the people that are watching this video want to combine it with Bit Chest, it doesn't work. And also it doesn't work with Berserk that say when you discard a card at random.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. So be
So
very mindful, everyone. Otherwise, that interaction would be broken. So yeah, skull crack for that random 1 resource. Really good. Okay, let's do it. Swing big. It's one of the best cards I think you've got available. 2 for 8 with a non-hit attack.
okay. Do you want to block the swing big that is with go again and then take the CNC? that's the that's the real question people have to ask for. So yeah, this card is insane.
Yeah, this card is insane. How bad is the fact that you're giving them a quicken token, which is not going to pop next turn and it's going to sit around waiting?
If you're playing against Guardian, that's a pretty bad drawback because the go again can combine really well with Anotos.
Yeah.
But in the vast majority of the games, it's not that relevant because if your opponent is blocking for 8, you're grabbing a massive amount of tempo. So at the end, this card is so good that I remember in a developer meeting that they made. I think it was in the World Championship,
Mm-hmm.
and they asked the developers what was the card they could remove from the game, and one of them said Swimbeak because the ratios are out of the scale of the game.
Yeah.
Because going for 7 for 2 is crazy, 8 for 2 is just insane.
That's true. Normally, we very very much used to three for eights. Everyone dreams of the 3 for 8 rate, but Brute get a 2 for 8. So yeah, those numbers are crazy. Let's do it. Show no mercy. Okay. I know that you are very hyped for this card for that on our last video with.
It's it's my favorite art so bad. So, this card is crazy. The art is awesome, and you have a lot of interactions with this card. Is uh, an easy. It's an improvement of the pack call, I no, it's not pack. It's Packhand. Sorry,
Yeah,
it's 6/2 that has intimidated. Well, this one costs one more, but it's an easy way to push damage.
yeah,
If you attack with Zone of Mercy, you can go for 6 Intimidate. If your opponent block with 2 cards, you can discard Agility Windup to have a +3, which is insane, though.
yeah,
And it's also an interesting attack you can play as your first attack if you have Go Again, because you're intimidating and forcing your opponent to take all the damage. Or it's an interesting attack to run it as a second attack, if you know that your opponent has to block with 2 cards.
yeah.
It's quite interesting way to combine with all these remove the arsenal cards.
Yeah, so there's a bit of a discussion. I know it's slightly different because of how many cards do I need to have in my hand in order to make sure I can play this. But the rate is, some people are saying that it's very, very similar to Alpha Rampage in a way. Is it the flexibility of this card not needing for you to discard a card from your hand that pushed it over the edge?
Yeah, the ratio of Alpha Rampage is 9 for 3 cards. This card is 2 card 6, maybe 9.
Yeah,
If 2 cards for 9 is awesome,
yeah,
and it has a lot of combinations. And it also, if you want to play a setup deck, this card is perfect if you want to combine it with Barraging Beatdown, because Barraging Beatdown can set up damage. And
yes,
it's very easy to pitch stack it because you can just put it with a blue card and you say, okay, you have all these 2 cards together. The only thing you have to do is to arsenal in the late game a Barraging Beatdown, and as soon as you draw it, you can block for 6, which is a typical situation in the late game, and you say, okay, and I push damage
yeah,
with Barraging and 2 cards.
yeah.
I think the flexibility of this card is going to make it relevant in all the Rhinar League builds.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It puts you in that spot, doesn't it? Of if you're near the end game, they've got no equipment left, and you've just intimidated like 2 cards from their hands. You got a choice. You take 8 or you take 3. What what would you like? And it's always I take 3.
Yeah. And also, Brian Beatdown say that if you block with less than 2 cards, you get a bonus. So
Yeah.
it's do you want to take a lot of damage or you want to take a lot of damage and discard the 2 cards from your hand?
Oh man, so that's all your big spicy reds. We did actually touch on some of the yellows with the Zen pack in, but let's go with the Beast Within. If this has been put into your graveyard from anywhere other than the combat chain, banish it, and then you go for a very sometimes. And I've lost a game. I lost my first skirmish game with this by drawing a non-6 power card and then drawing another non-6 power card and just lost too much health and just died on the spot with it. But you keep losing health until you reveal a 6 cost card, and then when you do, you draw it into your hand. Right? Break this down. How is this card just like a key auto include every time?
Yeah, as long as it may mean drawing a card for free. In the same way that the Skullcrack, it was a free resource sometimes. This card, if you plan around it, you can just have a free card and just push a lot of damage in one turn.
Yeah. Yeah.
This card it also is on rate. It blocks for 3, and you can combine it quite easily with Bloodrush Bellow and do a really big turn. I think it's perfect. This card is perfect, and
Yeah.
it also it sometimes will make you just throw the deck to the window and say, "Fuck it, I don't want to play Brute anymore." But the vast majority of the times, this card is going to be so good. So
Yeah.
it's an auto include. It's an auto include.
And plus, as well, like you said, with the clash mechanic as well, if you had a turn where you may have needed to just block up and you clash, flip up the top card, you know it's going to be, a low count of, it's a 6, so the Beast Within trigger is going to be totally fine. It's again, it's going to work, isn't it? All right, let's talk about pretty much why Brute is so insane. Bloodrush Bellow, like you just don't not ever run Bloodrush Bellow. The card is just cracked in every way. As an additional cost to play it, you discard a random card. Your brute attacks get +2 this turn. This turn, not the next attack. This whole goddamn turn. And if you discarded a 6 or more, you draw 2 more cards. Right. Silly card.
Absolutely. And also, if you combine it with another with attacks that provide free value, if you combine it with Savage Fist, you combine it with Beast Within, you combine it with Pulping, with Wild Wraith, there are so much situations when this card may be a +8 for one and not spending the card because you're replacing, you're paying two, you're discarding two cards and paying two to draw two cards. So you're essentially swapping one pitch and intimidate and free intimidate for
Oh.
8.
If we get remember everyone, every time we're talking about these discard cards, they've lost a card from their hand. Their strategy of how to block is just totally out the window sometimes. And there's even games which is there many games where you just do a full hand, it's gone. See you later. You're just gonna take all of this to the face.
Yeah, drawing this card is essentially taking 18, making your opponent take uh, manage an 18 turn damage.
Yeah.
It's just for drawing it. You keep your hand and you say, okay, 18, one or two intimidates. And obviously, if you combine it with agilities, this card may be crazy.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
even attack with two attacks and the two weapons. If you have the tunic, if you have big setup, it's definitely the build around card. Is the reason why I build this deck with claws. I would build with Ramping Club if I would if this card wouldn't exist, but as long as this card exists, even Levia is running claws instead of his weapon. So
And it's purely
I
because
will
of Bloodrush Bellow, right? You would you be running claws if it wasn't for this? I think claws and this card is just the combo is just too insane. Right, let's go through these blues. We talked about Smackback, Alehorn, Wrecker Romp, the blue, the blue block 3/6.
the
There we
single
go.
blue. The single blue. It goes for 6, it blocks for 3. It's a blue.
Yeah,
It's you're not going to use it though. You don't have to read the text.
yeah. Don't read the
you,
text.
you will never use the text. So
Okay. And the blue, Barrage and Beatdown, classic card. Absolute welcome to Wraith Classic. Your next brute attack this turn gains if this attack is defended by less than 2 non-equipment cards, it gains +2. So you're pretty much saying, give me cards or you're gonna get hurt. That's pretty much it. And you went for blue, how come?
yeah, it's a really good card for the late game if you pitch stack it with Pulping or Shown of Mercy because Pulping has Dominate.
Yeah,
So your opponent cannot block with two cards, so you're essentially doing Intimidate and +2
yeah,
for a blue, which is fine. And also, if you combine it with Son of Mercy, as you're intimidating two cards, you're making your opponent choose to take the 2 damage for Barraging Beatdown or 3 damage for Son of Mercy.
yeah, yeah.
So it's a way to force damage. It's quite easy to stack it together because the only thing you have to do is to pitch it together. It doesn't require a big engine of 4, 5, or 6 cards in a row. It's just okay. It's it's a good late game combo.
Yeah,
And it's if you draw it with Bloodrush Bellow when you have a lot of blues, it's a card that can force 5 damage again. So
yeah,
it's fine.
yeah. It's fine. It's fine. And then the old classic Reckless Swing. You, as additional cost to play it, discard a random card. If it was a 6 or more, deal 2 damage. The game-winning card itself, old Reckless Swing. Yeah,
This is a card that I like modulating between running 0, 1, 2, or 3. This time I'm going to run 3. There is a card that I really enjoy playing. And as people playing against me just learn that as long as I pitch 1, they say, okay, this guy is only running 1. As long as I play 2 or 3, they are just raging so hard. So it's the typical card that you can run 1, 2, or 3. I strongly encourage people to run a random number of copies of this card if you want to have fun in your armories.
yeah,
And if you want to play competitively, I think I will run 1 because I like block and 3 because at the end this card costs 2 cards.
yeah,
The value is 6 because you are making 2 damage and you're blocking 4, but maybe it's not the most flexible card. But it's
yeah,
a way to close the game, and in the same way that Beast Within is the card that make us rage a lot playing Brute, this is the card that make our opponent to rage about, fuck, I'm playing against Brute, why are they running this card?
yeah.
And obviously it's a signature card for Rhinar, especially because as Kaio you want to run a lot of blues that go for 5 because they
Mm,
are 6 with the ability. And Levia has a lot of non-block cards in his deck, so maybe she's going to run one. But with Rhinar, you can afford running more than one. So it's quite good.
Yeah.
It's not an specialization, but it's close enough.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Right, sideboard time. So we will go through just quickly the equipment. We've got the Null Rune gloves and the Skull Horn. Are they just your arcane barrier?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. If you're playing against Viserai, you will run one Null Rune gloves, or if you run against Vicenta, against Vincent, sorry.
yeah, Vincent. Yeah,
I said it in Spanish.
no, that's
if you're
if you're going up against Rune Blades, it's Null Rune gloves, and Skull Horn is Wizard.
yeah, Skullworm is basically for Wizard. If you want to run AB3, it only requires one slot, which is fine.
Yeah,
Obviously, you don't want to. These two are flexible slots if you want to play a tournament and take the risk of losing against Kano. It's fine. You're not going to face a lot of Kanos, but I think that two slots in the sideboard maybe it's not that painful.
no, no.
Also, remember you have the Agility Windup combo, so but you have the meta in your deck. You can just keep the Agility Windup in your hand and just play the game.
Yeah, no, that's
You
fair.
have the meta to play against Kano, but it's it.
Yeah, that's fair. Remembrance. Okay, interesting. Shuffle up to 3 action cards from your graveyard into your deck, and then you banish it. Why have you put Remembrance in your deck?
Uh, I will be afraid of playing against Victor,
Right.
just for people. I mean, I know Rhinar has a winnable matchup against Victor because you have Intimidate, but I respect the deck too much. I think it's quite strong. I will take the Yorgos build that for sure will be quite interesting for many people.
Yeah.
And yeah, many people many people say that Victor is going to be an S or A tier deck. So as I respect the deck, I think that putting back the Bloodrush Bellow is a win condition to play against these defensive builds.
Yeah, that's fair. Arg Smash. Okay. I can see that this card is clearly targeting the mechs, right? Because it's just destroying loads of their items. I will round up by saying that there is the Smashing Performance card, which is a yellow 6 spot with yellow 3 cost 6 attack that has the same effect of draw a card, randomly discard a card. And if this happens, you destroy one item. So why have you gone for Arg Smash over Smashing Performance?
Yeah, if you're facing a deck with a lot of items, if you're replacing a defensive dash, what you want to essentially do is to destroy the going in cards because they are the one that make you lose life.
Oh yeah, the induction chambers.
You want to destroy the induction chambers. You don't want to make it randomly because if you destroy the plasma purifiers, the win condition is still on the board. It also has it also can block for 3 if you're playing against a dash and you don't know if it's aggressive or defensive. You can use this card to block 3 in the case you want to fatigue dash. They have to do a lot of boosts, so if you're not playing against a player who has a lot of control about his build and they run maximum velocity with all these cards that put that card back in his hand, you can just fatigue them. So having one card that allows us to have an easy baiting against the mechs, I think it really works the slot. And it's also quite good if you're playing against a random max and you can want to destroy the mech. That is essentially the win condition for max. I think it's quite good.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Also, throwback as well to the 2020 Nationals in New Zealand, where it was a Carol versus Rohan. Both are now developers. Before this, they were the players. And I remember this awesome story of where Carol had his Arc Smashes and a Remembrance, and Rohan had his Induction Chambers and a Remembrance. So every time they were breaking induction chambers, he was remembrancing those induction chambers back into his deck, and then he would remembrance the Arc Smashes back into his deck, and it was in the top 8, and it was almost a 2-hour game because it was untimed. Well, yeah, so there you go, everyone. You've got remembrances just in case those pesky dashes decided they're going to run some remembrances in their deck. In case you're having this in crazy slow deck. Doubt that's going to happen, but there we go. Right, defense reaction time. Unmovable, Guardian. Well, that's pretty much
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
Guardian and Asilia.
yeah.
Both decks. Many people say that these two decks are the S tier, so
Mm,
having cards to play against them is quite relevant. And this card is also a good replacement for Class of Agility Red if you're playing against decks Symbilo and Unmovable. I mean, these two cards are cards that can be replaced for Class of Agility.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And sink below. When are you? I suppose really with the defense reactions, I'll get to that point of. I suppose really the immovables are coming in when it's against Azalea and Guardian, right? And what with Sink Below again, it's that really good defense card. When is this being? When is this going to be put in? What sort of matchups are you going to go? I've got to put these in, and kind of what are you taking out?
Yeah, if you're playing against decks that do big dominate attacks, if you're
Mm,
playing against Betsy, if you're playing against maybe Victor, if you're playing against Bravo, if you're playing against Acilia, all these decks can require having extra defense at some points. If you're playing against a warrior,
mm,
uh, both Kasai and Dorinthia, maybe sometimes you want to do a big reset turn blocking with all your hand.
yeah.
So this card may help, and especially if you put it on the arsenal.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think that Class of Agility is not going to be a good deal in that matchup because you don't want to take the risk of giving an agility token to your opponent, you can easily replace it with Symbilo. It's not a 6, you're swapping a 6 for a 4, but you can fix your hand and it always works. Is the trust card.
Yeah,
It's the most trustable defense reaction you can include in your deck.
absolutely. So, but what cards are you going to be? So, is it again just picking up your deck? And I think a lot of questions that you'll see in the comments are, what am I replacing for this? If that makes sense, like what are the cards in your main board? Because it is a tight 60 that that you're gonna start looking at chipping away, or is that kind of
Yeah,
contextual?
yeah, if you check we will make it for the video
Mm,
in the matchup side. You have a sideboard guide if you're playing against Cecilia, against the Classic Dash, Guardian, and other brutes
got
that
you.
are essentially the S tier. But yeah, I will include both defense reactions if I'm playing against Warrior. That I didn't did it in the initial write up. I'll do it later.
Yeah.
And in the rest of the matchups, I wouldn't run the Symbilos. I think that the 60 base cards are solid
Mm,
enough to
mm,
be played in almost every matchup.
fair enough.
Those cards are just little details you can swap between matchups.
Cool. And then this really spicy card, I love to see it. Very humble of you to add this in. Humble. When this hits, that hero loses all abilities until the end of the next turn. So, why have you included this in your sideboard? Who is it going after?
Yeah, this is an encouraging card for all the brute community in general because Humble is a card that allows us to easily beat Kaio and Levia. So we can show people that Rhinar is the best route. But jokes apart, this is a card that obviously in those two matchups are quite good because if you remove the ability to have all these sixes in his hand for Kaio, you're gaining a lot of tempo. So this is a card that it's basically a block me card.
Yeah.
If you're playing against Levia, obviously you are you're turning off the blue depth, so they just die to their own blood depth.
Yeah.
And it's a card that can be useful in the meta because if Dorinthia, Kasai, uh, all the brutes, maybe Betsy is a hero that you can disable. It's just a way to make the Apex, the new globes, better because you can include Amnesia, you can include Humble, you can include a lot of cards that have on hits. Maybe Cadaverous Contraband, you can put the Bloodrush Bellow on the top of your deck. So I strongly encourage people to find all these sixes and put them in the deck and just try to build around
Yeah.
Apex.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's don't fret too much about the 2 block. You're going to be wanting to use this proactively, and the fact that brutes have you're trying to just boost that number up of like this very threatening on hit ability that can I love
And
it. I love the fact that
and
you're being very flexible.
and again, if you do a big attack and then you have a lot of on hits in your deck, as I said, it may be humble, it may be cadaverous contraband, it may be amnesia, it may be wherever you want.
Mm.
If you include this kind of cards in your deck, you are forcing your opponent to take decisions and take damage, and you're advancing the win condition.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Look, yeah, it's like look at this, look at this. Pa! You didn't. You.
I have humble in my hand. They
Yeah,
have
yeah,
the Fangs.
yeah. That's it. Dude, take 8. Dude, take 8. Take 8. This is coming. I love it. That's really cool. All right, and then you got some maybes. This is the first time I've loved seeing this now, and I think next time going forward, I'd love to ask some people I'll bring on to throw in some maybes because we do get asked these questions in the comments, and it's very difficult sometimes for me to know the answer of what you think. So here are some maybes. Clash of Might. So again, a Clash Agility, but you're maybe thinking Clash of Might. Why is that?
Uh, as I said, you have a lot of attacks in your deck. You can
Yeah.
include a lot of attacks in your deck that raising the breakpoint to 7 is quite relevant. So this may be a card that can be played in the deck if the meta turns more less guardianish and more Fi if you're playing against Katsu, if you're playing against all these builds.
Mm.
It's a card that is basically a block 3 game +1 for the next turn.
Yeah, that's
So the value is quite good, and it's also a way to be proactive in the game. You don't need it below. Maybe you need those cards.
yeah,
And obviously, I include it on red and blue
yeah,
because on red is an on-rate attack, an on-rate brute attack, which is relevant if you're playing Bloodrush.
yeah,
And on blue, it's a card that you can include just because it's blue.
yeah,
Because the slots on the blue cards are flexible. Maybe you can swap it with Reckless Swing. Maybe you can replace some of the agility cards. Just include a 3 block, more 3 block if you want to play more defensively. I think it's another relevant card from heavy hitters.
yeah. Gambler's gloves. I mean, we were talking about it. We're going, oh, it's gone, but it's a maybe. That safety net is still, in your little backpack because you never know when you may need your gambler's gloves. So why have you put this as a maybe?
It's a maybe because, as I said, I respect Victor too much. It's a deck where you don't need the defensive value of the Apex because
Yeah,
he's not going to attack you very much. He's going to play defensively, essentially. So you maybe in that case, in that specific case, as you're not going to run the red class cards, you need a little bit more go again. So you can use Gambler Gloves to beat defensive builds, defensive guarding builds.
yeah,
And also if you are playing against Illusionist,
mm-hmm.
you are favorable because you are brute and you have a lot of sixes. But I still respect Romai too much.
Yeah,
Maybe I wouldn't include it in the main list or the sideboard, but it's a card I will have take into consideration if I think that draw my matchup is a thing,
yeah,
as I haven't tested too much with the new cards, and also against Prism
yeah. No, that,
because that to block is not that relevant. You can block the Herald of Erudition easily with the helmet and the Scabskin Leather, so
yeah,
maybe you can run both cards. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And then, oh, good old Rhinar Romping Club. This is a maybe. Interesting stuff. I mean, when we were going through this list, the only thing that was selling me with the claws was obviously Bloodrush Bellow. But man, I honestly think you could slot this in and really make this work with so many so many ways to because of agility, right? It's because of agility, and sometimes you're not doing a big, long, wide 3 attack turn. Sometimes you're just coming in with a 2 attack turn, and Romping Club just seems so much more efficient in those turns, if that makes sense. But it's a maybe, so I'd love to hear your thoughts.
It's a maybe because I think you have to build a deck around it. Maybe you don't have to run that many blues. We are running 18 blues and 12 yellows in this deck.
Mm.
Almost the 50% of the deck is more than red. and maybe you should play more reds and play more proactively with this kind of ramping club.
Mm.
More than proactively is a way to be proactive being defensive. I know it's not easy to understand, but if you want to block with a class of agility, what you do is just to swap 3 cards from your hand for a 6 or 8 or whatever,
Mm.
and you are trading those 3 block for a 5 for a 4 with a ramping club.
Mm.
It's highest value, but you are not you are being proactive in the way that you are pushing damage. So it's a way to punish the defensive builds not attacking you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's.
But you need to be. It's more a fair game, you know. If you want to play the fair game, you're going to be in the ramping club. If you want to play the rush, if you want to play the spike game, you want to play cards like Bloodrush Bellow as soon as you draw it and
Yeah.
try to be aggressive with it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Right. And that's everything. I mean, it's a bit of a long one. We really broke this down. So if this is your first time playing any heavy hitters and you want to get into CC and you love the look of the color green on a guy, then there you go. We got Rhinar and we got Daniel Correas breaking this down. I hope you all really enjoyed this. Daniel, any sort of final words, sign off that you'd like to give before we end this?
Yeah, I want to thank everybody who helped me to build this list, my team and the people who want to help me with who helped me with building the list.
Yeah.
Especially the Polish team and the Spanish community that they want to there are a lot of fluency communication between us, and we will build a really cool list. Maybe if I don't qualify for day 2 on Liverpool in the calling, which is sealed, I will try to play this on the Battle Hardened.
It's Rhinar
Maybe
time.
this. Yeah, it's Romping Club is my favorite weapon, so I don't know if I will go. If I play Rhinar, if I get the cards in time, I will try to play more Romping Club more than Claws, but let's see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. If everything's a maybe, here is a list. Try it out. Take it to your local armories. You can even have a bash with it on Talishar if you want to. But thank you so much. Link below for the deck list and link below to the Sunflower Samurai's YouTube channel and Twitter as well. Thank you so much. Love you. Bye.